How's it going, everyone? This is Nick from Comic Culture. We have another Nick at Night. It's Friday. We read our books. We're going to talk about them in a non-spoilery way. So let's go and review the books we picked up on August 4th, 2021. Stick around. Welcome back, everyone. So let's go ahead and get started. Nick at Night, non-spoilery. This is our non-spoiler discussion. I go over just the high points. I go over some of the themes, some of the concepts, what I liked, what I didn't like. Never major plot points, never major, major aspects of the book, right? I kind of go over what, at a high level, what I liked, what I didn't like. So if you haven't read these books, feel free to watch. And then if I ever get into the more spoilery territory, just, let me know. Let me know, because I want to make sure that you guys are still surprised with a lot of these books. So as always, we're going to start with the big two. We're going to move over to the only Marvel book I got. This is XMen #2 by Duggan. So XMen #2 was interesting. I just read House of X, Powers of X. I'm coming off of this Kirkman, I almost said Robert Kirkman, this Hickman wave, right? And so I'm super excited to kind of see what the X-Men are going to be up to. So I'm looking to this book, maybe unfairly, to fill that void, to fill that gap. Let me tell you something right now. The art is absolutely killer in these books. So I think it's Larez, right? Pepe Larez. So the art is killer in this book. Absolutely love it. The story is a very generic, basic kind of, we have a new X-Men team. They're responding to whatever threat that they've been made aware of. We have this interesting source for these different villains. How do I say this without spoiling it? So there's a reason why these attacks on Earth are happening. It's a non-conventional way. It's kind of a hokey kind of a situation, I would say. So we're trying to understand more about that. And so our heroes are just going in to save the day. So it's a very generic, hey, there's a threat. X-Men assemble and go and take care of business, right? But there's this underlying reason about why it's happening. And I don't think we're any closer to really understanding, what's going on, although our heroes are starting to get a little suspicious about why these attacks are happening. So art's really good. Story is interesting. I think it needs to pick it up, and I think that we're heading in the right direction. It's not filling the gap or the void that I have after House of X, Powers of X, but it's still a really good read, and the art is unbelievable. So I'm going to keep going with that. So that was the only Marvel book I read. So I did pick up a few DC books, not as much as last week. We have Batman #111. I got that cool variant cover. Very, very interesting. I am really, really liking Batman right now. So this is James Tynion and Jorge Remendez on the art. The art is just insane. So again, this is the buildup of how the Magistrate came to power, right? We got all these little hints and stuff like that in Future State. How did it get to that point? So this is kind of the buildup, and we're kind of seeing all the dominoes fall in place, which led us to Future State, but it didn't quite go according to plan. So the masterminds behind this, they have some things they got to account for that they didn't plan for. Lots of cool characters. We get some cool Miracle Molly stuff in here. We get some Ghostmaker. We get some Harley. We got some Batman. We got some Scarecrow. Really, really interesting book. You know what I've been ignoring? I've been ignoring the first 2 pages of this run lately. The first 2 pages for the last several issues have been mostly about Scarecrow and Batman. And it's like Batman's trying to escape this mental prison that Scarecrow put him in. So we get a little bit more context related to that. We get some cool Peacemaker action in here too. And the art is just a complete joy, right? So I'm actually loving Batman right now. I'm loving what they're doing. I like a Batman who's desperate. I like a desperate Batman, and we have some really cool, interesting new characters, and I love it. It's great. Talking about continuing on with what I love, Swamp Thing. Some Rom V goodness. This is Swamp Thing #6. Perkins and Spicer. So Swamp Thing is really, really interesting. The last issue is more of a one-shot. We get, it was necessary to kind of put us into this particular issue, though. So it'll be fun to kind of see where it goes. This is the Suicide Squad crossover. And so, again, you open this book, and you're just absolutely blown away by the art. The second page, it's insane. Mike Perkins is absolutely killing it. Mike Spicer, and Aditya Bidikar. on the lettering as well. I love the way that they did the characters for Suicide Squad. I love the internal monologue. I loved everything about it. Some of the flashbacks with the character and his family and whatnot, him just kind of regenerating, and trying to get back into the green and everything. It's an absolute pleasure to read these books. You're absolutely blown away by the art. I think we're really, really spoiled having Larez, Ramirez, and Perkins and Spicer in the same week. Absolutely great. I mean, when you read other books, it's really hard to get into them because the art in those books are just so incredible. And we have a few more examples of just really, really great art. And we're going to keep rolling with that. We have Nice House on the Lake. This is issue number 3 from Tynan and Martinez. So Nice House is great. So what the thing about Nice House is we don't really know much more than we've ever known. You don't really know a whole lot. It kind of introduces a new character, or showcases a new character rather, on every single first few pages, right? And so we have our character Sam. So Sam and Walter kind of goes over their little origin, how he kind of got roped into joining them at the Nice House on the Lake. And then he kind of goes into the detective mode, right? He's not so easy to kind of like sit back and just accept these gifts, presumably that this house is providing. He understands that, stuff's going to hell outside, right? And he wants to understand what kind of prison they're in. So he's really, really trying to investigate exactly what the heck's going on, right? So it's been really, really interesting to see what he's learned through here. He's kind of plotting everything out, trying to figure things out. But it's hard, man. It's hard to really figure out how this is happening and what kind of cage they're in, what kind of prison that they're in. And so he's trying to figure it out, but man, it's difficult. It's difficult, and you'll see why in this book. So absolutely killer writing and killer art on the first, 3.5 books? XMen was pretty good in the writing, but the art's really, really amazing. Moving on, Skybound X. We're going into indies now. This is Image Comics. Skybound X, issue 5. This is the 1 in 10 variant, black and white. Interesting book. So this is the one that has a bunch of different short stories in it. It starts with Rick Grimes, 6 sidekicks of Trigger Keaton, Code, which is a new Robert Kirkman and Jason Howard created book, and Gasolina. So I read Rick Grimes, 6 sidekicks, and Code. The Walking Dead. So the Walking Dead one, it ends very, very quickly. It's one of those, it's like, we are completely outnumbered, completely outgunned, but one thing changes the battle. It changes the course of the battle, and then that's the key to like winning everything. And it happens in like 5 pages. So if there's one thing I can say is it's an extremely gory, graphic, cool moment to remember these characters. And man, it wraps up really, really, really quick. I feel like we needed an entire book, an entire comic, just to kind of flesh out the ending here. But it happens pretty quickly, and, it's outrageous. The ending is completely outrageous, just like every other issue's been. Ryan Otley on the art has been absolutely crazy. So I've absolutely loved it. 6 sidekicks. It's interesting. I think I'm only on issue number 1 of the actual run. So I didn't get too much into this story right here. It was kind of funny though to see our main guy and to kind of, see more about the relationships and whatnot. So that was okay. And then Code I thought was really interesting too. I'm going to go back and reread it. Apparently it's our new character here. Lots of action and stuff. So I would pick it up because it's a new Robert Kirkman character. And so Code. So I would pick it up. So if you're in the spec, if you're into Robert Kirkman stuff, get it for The Walking Dead and get it for Code for sure. And 6 sidekicks is a neat little treat in there too. Continuing on with Image, we have Firepower. What issue is this now? Issue number 14. The snakes on the cover give it away. This is just a reminder that stuff is still not figured out, right? So the last issue is kind of I call it the shawarma issue, where everyone's just kind of sitting around eating dinner. This issue here reminds you that there are still threats out there. So we get some introduction. We get introduced to the new villain. We get some kind of funny moments in here, some great family moments and whatnot. We get some new allies, some older villains, some new allies added to the mix. And so Owen and family, they're just going to have to figure out what they're going to be doing next. And it's going to be interesting. Apparently the snake people are coming back, right? So Cool issue. Not really like super impressed by the whole series in general. And let me know in the comments below if you guys feel that way. I feel like Firepower, it's always pretty consistent. You know what I mean? Even good issues, like I thought this one was a good issue. It's just like, yeah, that was pretty cool. But it didn't absolutely blow me away. Geiger, on the other hand. Geiger, this is issue number 5, Jeff Johns. Geiger's such a cool book, man. So, again, we get surprise after surprise. We get interesting storytelling, amazing art. And we learn a little bit more about these kids that he's teamed up with. We learn a little bit more about this government base and kind of, how they're operating and the different resources they have. Geiger is kicking ass like always in this issue here. And so we get a little bit more on the kids and the relationship with Geiger. And so, it's really kind of a world building issue, which was really fun to see. And so we get a lot of, I love that like 3-headed dog or 2-headed dog that Geiger has. So there's a lot of cool little action in there. So absolutely love Geiger. So if you're not on it, go for it. And we're going to probably we got a cameo of a new like tank-like character in this one. And I think we're going to get a first full appearance in the next issue. So that'll be kind of cool to see what Geiger can do against like the military's last resort soldier, right? So pretty cool stuff. All right, so now we're going to dip into the indie. Well, we got one more image book before we do that, but it feels like an indie book. The Me You Love in the Dark. So this is Scotty Young's new book and Jorge Corona. And so this was a really, really cool book. Highly anticipated. Love the art. I do hate that it's not cardstock because it comes wavy, because this cover is pitch black. And so when it comes, so you can see that in the light reflection there. You can see how wrinkled it is and rippled it is already. So I really, really wish it was cardstock because Scotty Young deserves that. This is a really cool story. So essentially it's an artist who's just trying to get away, trying to find that creativity. She has an art gallery. She needs to like supply art too. So she's trying to go find herself, right? So she picks like this, she goes out shopping for this house and she finds like this presumably haunted house, right? Now, how am I going to get inspiration? And so it's just her trying to find inspiration in this like presumably haunted house, getting frustrated, trying to dig up the emotions, and some really cool, interesting stuff happens in here. And she kind of, it seems like she kind of loses her mind here and there. It's a fast issue to read. It's a very beautiful issue because the art is absolutely amazing. And we get a cool little preview at the end of the next book. And I don't think I've ever seen this before. What was the last time we had a comic who previewed 1-2 whole pages for the next issue of the same comic run, right? We see that with like other comics, like, hey, check out the next comic coming out in 3 months. No, this is the issue number 2 doing this. It doesn't give anything away. It just gives away some textless panels, right? Some letterless panels. Really, really good use of the colors in here, of the black, adding a lot of mystery. It's really dark. It's a really dark, just beautiful book. And I can't wait to continue reading it. Absolutely love that one. Peter Milligan's Out of Body. We're going into Aftershock. This is issue number 3. Again, another killer cover on here. I'm trying to think. After reading this book, I'm trying to understand what this cover is. And I do actually know what this cover is. They kind of explain what this is here in this issue. It's only in like a page or 2, but it's still interesting. So basically we have our main character. He's still in a coma. He's still trying to figure out how we got there. He's learning more about astral projection. And I believe the girl that's helping her is Abby. She's trying to mentor him into, what are the rules of the game here, right? You're on a timeline. You don't have all the time in the world. Apparently they're going to pull the plug because insurance is running out. So you're going to be off the ventilator. They're going to kill you essentially. So you don't have that much time. So he's trying to figure out who murdered him still. He's kind of going around making this mental checklist of people in his life. He's trying to figure out if they're involved or not. He gets some dead ends there, here and there. And we get a cool twist of, this guy is actually a psychologist as well. And so we get some cool interactions with past patients of his. I'll just kind of say it like that. And it's just really, really neat to see what they did there. So I've actually really enjoyed this one. The villain is still pretty weak, I think. He's there, and his henchmen are there. But, I don't care about the villain. I care about what the henchman's doing, but I don't care about the main villain, right? And so, yeah, we'll see. I do like the more detective aspect of this book. I don't like the villain in this book, but I do like, Abby and the astral projections and the way that they're expanding, bringing in his former patients and things like that. So it's been an interesting book. They need to flesh out the villain some more, but I like the book for sure. So I'm going to keep getting it. All right. We got a bunch of number ones. We have 4 number ones, and then we have another one, number 3. So I'm going to go into the number 3. I'm going to save the number ones for the end because those were the most shocking books for me, I think. We're going on the Colin Bunn. So, man, Colin Bunn, he's put out a ton of books, right? He has the number 1 we're going to come up to next. He's got Basilisk number 3, and he did Last Book You'll Ever Read last week, which thank God it didn't come true because I got like 16 books this week. This is Basilisk number 3. Basilisk started really, really good really, really strong, I thought. We had a really interesting, cool power set woman. We had like a revenge case like layered on top of that, right? We had some really interesting art. And then issue number 2 kind of expanded it a little bit more. Like, who are these like magical, superpowered people? And what's their power set? So we learned a little bit more about them. But then our main character is still like, oh, I'm going to get that revenge. You know what I mean? I'm going to trap you guys. I'm like, okay, cool. And then issue number 3 comes and we get more of the same. We get, we always get a little bit more background on the characters here and there. But we're still in that, I'm going to trap them. You know what I mean? They're headed right for me kind of a thing, right? So our main character is seeking revenge on these superpowered people still because they killed her family. And so she's trying to get the upper hand on them. And, they're going around terrorizing people. And that's essentially where we're left off. We get a little bit more other information, a little bit more background, a little bit more information on these supernatural people, what their objectives are, things like that. But nothing big pushes us forward. Like, we don't learn anything that really pushes the story forward. So we're 3 issues in, and we're still kind of churning the same information we've always had, right? So I'm a little bit worried about this book. Still a great book. Art's always been really interesting. And, I think the story needs to go on. There's action, there's gore, there's cool things to see, but I think what needs to progress a little bit faster than it is. But maybe, maybe it'll turn out just fine. Do we know how many issues this is going to be? Hopefully it's not going to be 6 issues. Maybe it will be, and that's the 3rd issue. So if it is, they're going to have to speed it up a little bit, I think. So we'll see. All right, 4 books left, all number 1s. Where do we start? We're going to start with Black Ravens. This is a offshoot of Scout Comics. This is We Don't Kill Spiders by Joseph Schmickel. I hope I'm saying that right. Schmickels? I don't know. We Don't Kill Spiders. What a cool, first off, props to them. Cardstock, thick cards. Like, this is like thick cardstock. We're not talking like thinner cardstock, right? I can't even find a book that's like that. It's like thicker than Nice House on the Lake B covers. It's crazy thick. So props to them, first off. For a unknown writer to me, a Black Raven $3.99 book. Okay, so We Don't Kill Spiders. I said when I looked at this cover, it looks like we have a witch on the front, and it looks like we have like a Diablo 2 base level, like barbarian, right? He's got like wolf pelt on his head. He's got a basic axe. He's got a wooden shield, and that's pretty much it. So I'm like, okay, we got like barbarians and witches, so this should be cool, and we got an interesting title. So first, the art is interesting in here, and so apparently Joseph does the writing and the art, so props to him. But we get a cool premise. Essentially, we have this kingdom who has been dealing with witches in the past, and they use the witches as like a scapegoat for some tragedy that happens, right? They need something to blame, so they blame these witches. The witches essentially before they're beheaded, they curse the town in a way, and they don't get them all. So you're left with a situation of like revenge because the witches now hate the men. The men think the men are willfully blind at the fact that they've wronged these witches, so they have a reason to be hated, I suppose. And so there's some more supernatural things that invade the town, and they're eliciting the help of this barbarian guy to help solve the mystery. But he's saying like, yeah, something tragic happened over there, and it's probably that witch that got away. So why don't you just go take care of her? When in reality, he's like, Now, you guys are pretty messed up because you did some messed up stuff, and it's probably not even her fault, but I'm going to use her to kind of help me, right? So we have our witch, we have our barbarian, and it's kind of like a detective case from there. So it's really cool little origin story for the witch character. It's really, the barbarian character is like really funny, and he's really analytical, right? He's very down to earth. He's like a Sherlock Holmes kind of a character, which is kind of fun. And so, yeah, he's kind of I don't believe it until I see it kind of guy. And he's not quite understanding how this witch can do what she can do. So it's a really cool mix of characters here to form this team. And so I can't wait to see where it goes. I hope I can keep getting those copies. So let me know what you're thinking. Did you read We Don't Kill Spiders? And We Don't Kill Spiders is a quote, and we understand what that means in that book too. So in case you're wondering, because it was kind of a weird title. All right, we got 3 more. So we got another Colin Bunn book, Lucky Devil #1. This is from Dark Horse Comics. So Lucky Devil, what a cool concept. So the solicitation is basically a man gets possessed by a demon, devil, with these supernatural powers. These powers that turn people against each other, murder people, just the most awful stuff, right? And it's extremely gory. I know it's hard to say that something's extremely gory in today's comic landscape, but there are some really interesting double spread panels in here that really kind of suggest or really kind of illustrate how crazy this is. And it has like a comedic element to it too, in a way. Like the way that he's destroying things is almost comical. And I had an absolute blast reading this book. It was so cool. So essentially our guy is possessed, but he seeks the help of an exorcist, and they exorcise the demons, right? But the powers don't go away. So, he's still left with this destructive capability, but the demon that was used to be inside of him is like in the world now too. So how do you manage all that? If you're the demon, how do you get your power back? If you're this guy, how do you go about your life knowing you're capable of these horrible things, and you've done horrible things to people just recently in the past? So it's a really, really interesting concept. I think Colin Bunn has something here. I think I like this one more than Basilisk now at this point, but we're only 1 issue in, so we'll see where it goes. So The Last Book You Ever Read and Lucky Devil are a hit on the Colin Bunn scale for me, and Basilisk is probably number 3. But man, he's putting out some really, really good work right now. A lot better stuff in the last week or 2 than he has in the past 2 months, I'd say, which says a lot because he puts out like 4 books a month. So, all right, we're going on to Maria Lovett, I believe it's called. This is a Blaze Comics. This is Porcelain. So first off, I bought it because the cover looked absolutely amazing. And the solicitation talked about like a supernatural dollhouse, which reminded me of Dollhouse, that book that came out a little while ago, which I absolutely loved. So we have our character here. It's really interesting. She's kind of like, the family lives isolated, like in the desert, and it's more modern times, it seems. And so she's just kind of like whittling away in the desert. And her mom says like, you're not gonna sit here forever. You got to get out there. You got to go. I'm not gonna have you sitting around this whole time and kind of wither away like everybody else, or like I did perhaps, right? And so, so she's kind of sent on an errand, right? And she's told strictly to stay on the path, right? Stay on the path. Don't wander. Just go get the oil. Go run the errand and come back, right? And so, well, what does she do? She gets tempted by something and she goes off path. So there's a whole layer of metaphors there that you can dissect on your own, right? And so she essentially runs into this mysterious dollhouse, and it has like an ice cream man kind of feel to this book, because it's just I think the art style and just the way that this character is behaving, and the way that there's not a whole lot of speech in this book. There's not a whole lot of dialogue. All the dialogue is basically in the very beginning, and there's a lot of cool speechless, dialogueless panels of this dollhouse and what's happening inside the dollhouse, and it's just really, really kind of neat. And so I'm trying to see if I can flash a page real quick. So this is our character kind of entering the dollhouse and just being kind of amazed at just the different stuff that she sees around. There's some different doorways and stuff like that with different gods above them, like the god of love and the god of death and things like that. So it's just really kind of cool, and some of the art's just absolutely amazing in here. So it also has kind of a, you know, Sleeping Beauty, Garden of Eden kind of a feel to it. I need to think about that some more, but essentially it's that trope where, you know, you go somewhere, you do something you're not supposed to, and you actually consume it. You actually take a bite of it. And then in doing that, you kind of unleash this like evil, or you go through some kind of metamorphosis, right? And so I would say that the only issue about this book is it ends very abruptly, very abruptly, to give us 3 or 4, 5-page preview of Gung Ho Anger #1, which I could care less about. I want more about this story. We just start getting into the thick of it, and all of a sudden you turn the page and it's over. It's over very, very abruptly with minimal text, and that's it. So I think it was a great story until the very, very last page, and I think we need more. I think this suffers from, single issue disease, where it's probably going to read great as a trade, but as a single issue, they didn't know where to stop. And they thought, well, we might as well stop here and we can just pad it with an upcoming book. Hated that, but I loved everything leading up to it. So Porcelain #1, looking forward to issue #2. Now on to probably my pick of the week, which is hard because there were so many good books this week. There's actually a lot of good books. There's a lot of contenders, and I'll go over my favorite ones. But this is Mark Russell's Not All Robots #1. This is AWA Upshot. So what do we have here? We have a family, we have a society that has gotten to the point where they've pretty much given up all manual jobs, all, really just kind of hard work jobs to robots. And the series of robots that we're referring to is the robot that's kind of right here. These robots are hilarious, though. They're truly like AI, right? They have like talk shows. They have their own lingo. They think about their own mortality. They think about their futures. They're kind of disgusted. Some of them, and there's a spectrum, right? They're not all just kind of like on the same wavelength. You know what I mean? One guy's like super happy. Other guy's really depressed. And these are all just robots. They come home from work and they're like mad and they're like stressed out. And all they want to do is like relax and hang out. But all they do is just do all the work and all the jobs that the humans don't want to do anymore. And the humans are kind of getting soft. So it's a really interesting thing. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, if you fast forward long enough, and we could have robots that would do all of our manual jobs, that's kind of how it would be, minus the whole artificial intelligence part. So it's just interesting. But essentially, the robots are there to take care of the humans in every single aspect. Humans have destroyed the Earth, and so the robots have helped them create domes and create like habitable environments. And they're doing all the shitty jobs that the humans don't want to do. So it's really, really cool and interesting. And the art is absolutely amazing in this book too. I really, really love it. There's a lot of social injustice things that the robots are doing too that's eerily familiar, unfortunately. And so, yeah, it's just really interesting to see how this works out. So, I can't say anything else about this book because I feel like I'm going to spoil it the more I talk about it. Not All Robots, really, really interesting read. I loved it a lot. Mark Russell, #1, AWA Upshot. Man, so many good books. So, top 3, pick of the week, Not All Robots. Close second, third, Lucky Devil for sure. We Don't Kill Spiders was really interesting. The Me You Love in the Dark, Nice House on the Lake. Oh my gosh, so many good books. Then I would say Batman and Swamp Thing. Those are probably my favorites right there. And that's like 7 books. So this was a very good week. If you only had to pick up 3 or 4 or 5 books or 2 books, if you got one of those, I'm super happy for you. If you got one of these other ones, you still got a great read. So you're still killing it. I think the weakest book is probably Skybound X, just because it's so many short stories and they're all super quick. And even the conclusion to The Walking Dead was kind of like, meh. I don't really care. Porcelain ended way too quick, but I loved the book still. Basilisk needs to move. It needs to do something because I'm fearing that My fear is it's 6 issues, and you know, we're going to get the same crap in issue number 4 and issue number 5, and then 6, she'll spring the trap and get her revenge, and maybe 1 or 2 will escape and they'll be redeemed. That's my prediction about how Basilisk is going to end, but I'm not entirely sure. Out of Body needs to move. It needs to move forward. So it needs to fix its villain, because everything else about it's really, really good. Geiger was interesting. Firepower is doing what Firepower does, and X-Men is, you know, it's not a substitute for House of X, Powers of X, or the Hickman run, but it's pretty interesting so far, and our heroes are getting a little wise to why the threats have been coming to Earth. So that'll be interesting to see what they do about that. Anyway, holy cow, lots of books. What did you guys get? What did you enjoy? Let me know in the comments below. While you're down there, hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and ding, ding, ding the bell notification for future videos, as Big Herm would say. Thank you so much. We'll see you in the comments.